You ever get that feeling in your gut, like something's just off? That's how this started for me. I remember it was a Thursday, early December. Erin had been hyping up her company's end-of-year party for weeks. She's not really the party type, which made the excitement even more noticeable. New dress, nails done, talking nonstop about networking opportunities. But all that felt like background noise to me until that night. I wanted to surprise her, thought it'd be romantic. Classic husband move. Show up a little early, flowers in hand. Remind her she's still got someone in her corner. Someone who notices. Only when I got there, I noticed more than I wanted to. I took the elevator up to the 17th floor, the event space. As the doors slid open, I saw her, Erin, laughing, head tilted back, her blonde hair caught in the shimmer of the overhead lights. She looked beautiful, no doubt, but she wasn't alone. There was a guy standing next to her, just a little too close. I recognized him, Ryan. I'd seen him once in a company holiday card or something. Tall, clean-cut, the kind of guy who looks like he drinks black coffee and never forgets his anniversary. His hand was resting on the small of her back. Light but firm. Familiar. Their steps were perfectly in sync, like they'd walked those hallways together 100 times. She was wearing heels, but she matched his pace effortlessly. Their bodies leaned just slightly toward each other, the way people do when the space between them has already been crossed. Then I saw the mark. It was barely noticeable. A faint lipstick smudge right where her neck met her jaw. Not her color either. Erin wears soft reds or neutral pinks. This was plum. Darker. Bold. And it wasn't smeared like she'd rubbed it by accident. It looked fresh. The moment she saw me, something in her face shifted. Her shoulders squared. Her expression changed. Not panic exactly, but a split-second recalibration. I've known her long enough to catch it. That micro-expression people wear when they're caught in a moment they didn't plan for. "Hey, you're early," she said too brightly. She glanced at Ryan, gave a little laugh. "We were just going over those last-minute changes to the Q4 presentation." Ryan nodded and offered me that polite, corporate smile. "Nice to finally meet you," he said, extending a hand. I shook it. Firm. Measured. The guy had confidence, I'll give him that. But I didn't like the way his eyes lingered on her before he left. Like they were finishing a sentence I wasn't allowed to hear. Erin leaned in for a quick kiss on the cheek, and I handed her the bouquet. Red and white roses, her favorite, or at least they used to be. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You didn't have to do this," she said, adjusting the bouquet in her arms. Her tone was light, grateful, but a little too controlled, like she was performing relief rather than feeling it. I shrugged. "Thought I'd surprise you. Didn't think I'd be interrupting anything." She gave a nervous chuckle and waved it off. "Please, you know how these things go. Deadlines, pressure. I'm basically married to PowerPoint these days." "Yeah, right." We stepped into the reception area together, and she introduced me to a few of her coworkers. Names I forgot as soon as they were said. Everyone was polite, professional. Too professional, honestly. Like they were trying not to make eye contact for too long. Like they all knew something I didn't. I kept replaying the elevator moment in my head. The touch. The lipstick. Her reaction. I didn't say anything, but the air around me felt heavier with every passing minute. At one point, she excused herself to check in with the AV team. I watched her walk away, heels clicking, her phone already in hand. She typed quickly, glancing over her shoulder once before disappearing around the corner. I stayed by the bar, nursing a ginger ale I didn't really want, and tried to push the feeling away. But it lingered, followed me all the way home. That night, after the party, Erin was unusually quiet. Not distant, but reserved, measured, like she was weighing every word before saying it. I asked how it went. She gave generic answers. It was fine. The speech went well. Ryan nailed the tech stuff. Ryan again. I didn't say anything, just nodded, smiled, played my role. Later, when she was in the shower, I stared at her phone sitting face down on the nightstand. Screen black, notifications silent. She used to leave it out in the open, unlocked. Now it had a passcode. One I didn't know. And maybe that's normal. Maybe privacy matters. But when did privacy become secrecy? I didn't check it. Not that night. But I thought about it. For the first time in our marriage, I thought about it. The next morning, she left early for some team debrief. Said she'd be grabbing coffee with a few coworkers to strategize for January. Ryan, probably. I stared at my own reflection while brushing my teeth. Same old face. Same tired eyes. But something was different now. I'd felt it in the elevator. I saw it in the way she stood next to him. In the lipstick that wasn't hers. The first red flag isn't always a scream. Sometimes it's a whisper, a flicker in the corner of your eye. Something small enough to ignore until you can't anymore. It's funny how the mind works when it's trying to protect you from something. For a while after the party, I told myself I was overreacting. That maybe Ryan was just one of those overly touchy people. That the lipstick mark was a weird angle, a trick of the light. That the sudden change in her behavior was stress or work or maybe just life. That was easier than facing the reality that something might be broken between us. Something I hadn't noticed in time. But the thing about red flags is that once you spot one, you start seeing them everywhere. Started small. She stopped leaving her phone on the kitchen counter when she cooked dinner. That was new. Erin used to put on a podcast or music while she chopped vegetables and stirred sauces. Now, the phone stayed in her pocket, or worse, it followed her from room to room like a shadow. One night, I walked in from the garage and saw her on the couch, texting furiously. She didn't hear me at first. But the moment she realized I was there, she jolted, flipped the phone face down, and muttered something about a group chat for work. I played it cool, acted like I believed her. But I didn't. Not really. Then came the strategy meetings. First, it was once a week. Erin would come home late, claiming she stayed to help plan next quarter's projects. Fair enough. I know how end-of-year stuff piles up. But then it became 2, then 3 nights. Always with the same explanation. Late meetings, last-minute prep, company pressure. And every time, she'd come home freshly made up, smelling like the perfume she only used for special occasions. Not the casual stuff, no, this was her high-end scent. The one she'd worn on our anniversary last year. And she never looked tired. Just flushed, breathless. There was a Friday night, 2 weeks after the office party. When she came in around 11:30, I was already in bed, pretending to sleep. I heard her heels click across the hardwood, the soft rustle of her coat being hung up. I expected her to head straight for the shower. Instead, she tiptoed into the bedroom, grabbed her pajamas from the drawer, and walked right back out. A minute later, I heard the bathroom door close. Water running. But the thing that really got to me wasn't what she did. It was what I didn't feel anymore. I didn't feel like she was mine. That Saturday, she woke up bright and chipper, humming in the kitchen while making coffee. She poured me a cup like nothing was wrong. Like the woman I saw laughing in the hallway with Ryan. The one with a stranger's lipstick on her neck. Wasn't real. Like I imagined the whole thing. She handed me my mug, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and asked if I wanted to go hiking that afternoon. And I did. I really did. I wanted to believe that maybe I was just being paranoid, maybe the stress was getting to me, maybe... But then I opened her laptop, and it asked for a password. Now, you need to understand, we shared everything. For the past 5 years, Erin's password had always been the same variation of her cat's name and her birth year. I knew it. She knew mine. We had nothing to hide. Or at least we didn't. Until she changed it. I didn't say anything. I just closed the lid and sat back, letting the quiet creep in around me. The next few days were a blur of me noticing everything. Her texts came in more often, but the screen was always hidden. She started locking the bathroom door. She'd take phone calls outside or in the car for better reception. I even noticed she had stopped wearing her wedding ring during work hours. I caught it sitting on the bathroom counter more than once. Every time I asked about it, she had an excuse. Oh, it gets caught in my keyboard. I forgot to put it back on after washing my hands. It's safer at home. I don't want to scratch it. Sure. Except she wore that ring like a badge for years. Suddenly, it was an inconvenience? One night, we went out to dinner. I was trying to play it cool. We were sitting across from each other, waiting for the check, when I saw a message pop up on her Apple Watch. She thought I wasn't looking. It was a name I didn't recognize. R. No last name, just an initial. The preview said, "Same time tomorrow?" Winking face. She tapped the screen and cleared the notification in half a second. Kept smiling at me like nothing happened. Like I hadn't just watched the bottom fall out from under my stomach. I should have said something right there. Should have asked who or was what same time meant, and why the hell she was getting flirty emojis on a dinner date with her husband. But I didn't. I played dumb. Because I needed to be sure. That's when I started keeping notes. Not in a crazy, obsessive way, just methodical. I jotted down times she left, excuses she gave, things she said that didn't add up. A digital breadcrumb trail. If I was wrong, I'd delete it all and pretend I never doubted her. But if I was right, I needed proof. Not feelings. Not vibes. Cold, hard truth. It didn't help that our conversations had changed. Or maybe just disappeared. We used to talk about everything: music, weekend plans, stupid TV shows. Now it was all surface level. Work, groceries, bills. She'd tell me she was drained or too tired to talk. She spent more time scrolling than speaking. One night, I reached over and tried to pull her close while we were watching a movie. Something simple, just an arm around her waist. She flinched. Just a little, but enough. "Sorry," she said quickly, pretending to adjust her blanket. "I've got a cramp." That might have made sense. Except 10 minutes later, she was texting, smiling at her screen, not at me. Then came the kicker. Assent. She came home late. Again. And when she leaned in to kiss me goodnight, I smelled something I couldn't ignore. Cologne. Not mine. Not even close. Strong. Masculine. Expensive. I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "You switch perfumes or something?" She blinked. "Huh? No. Just. You smell different." She laughed. "Oh, must be from the Uber driver. He had on so much cologne I thought I was gonna pass out." I nodded slowly. Happens. But in my head I knew. Uber drivers don't leave scent trails on people's necks. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Erin was sleeping soundly beside me, breathing evenly, arms curled beneath the pillow. Peaceful. As if there wasn't a storm quietly growing between us. And for the first time since I'd met her, I realized something terrifying. I didn't trust her anymore. It wasn't one thing. It was everything. The glances, the changes, the ring off her finger, the phone always face down, the way her voice got higher when she lied. I'd spent years believing she was incapable of betrayal, that she was loyal, honest, the kind of woman who'd never even think about doing something like this. But that night in bed, all I could do was stare into the dark and ask myself the one question I never thought I'd have to. What if she already has? By the time Erin said she had a conference in Houston, I'd stopped pretending not to notice. She made the announcement on a Wednesday night while we were doing dishes. Casual. Like it was no big deal. "They're flying me out next week," she said, drying a plate without looking up. 2-day strategy summit. Just the usual networking stuff. I nodded. "You've never mentioned a summit before." She shrugged. "It came up last minute. You know how things are this time of year." And that was it. No details, no itinerary, no excitement. Just another vague blip on the increasingly familiar radar of evasiveness. But this time, something in me clicked. I didn't say anything more. Didn't ask who she'd be going with. Didn't press for hotel names or flight numbers. I'd learned by then that asking questions only got me tighter smiles and more polished answers. But I wasn't done playing the fool. That night, after she fell asleep, I opened our shared bank app. We still had a joint account, left over from a time when that meant something. I'd checked it here and there since the suspicion started, but I hadn't found anything too out of the ordinary. Until now. A reservation had popped up that day, $7.48, charged to a hotel in downtown Houston. Not a chain. Not some run-of-the-mill conference lodging. This place was upscale, boutique, complete with romance packages and champagne service. I recognized it because we almost booked it for our anniversary once, before she decided she was too swamped to travel. I stared at the transaction for a long time. The date matched her supposed conference. The name on the charge was hers. And yet, no mention of a conference name. No reimbursement form. No work calendar entry. Nothing. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I texted a guy I used to play rec league softball with, Tony. He worked in IT at a different branch of Aaron's company and owed me a favor. I told him I needed to check something in the company's internal travel portal. Just a hunch, I said. He didn't ask many questions. 10 minutes later, he sent me a *T of the upcoming business trips for her team. No one was scheduled for Houston. Not Aaron. Not anyone. And just like that, it wasn't a hunch anymore. It was a confirmation. I spent the next couple of days pretending to be normal. That was the hardest part. Eating dinner with her, answering texts like everything was fine, acting like I didn't know she was about to fly across the country for a secret rendezvous. But I kept the mask on, because I wasn't about to confront her without undeniable proof. She left on a Sunday afternoon, packed light, just a carry-on and her laptop bag. She kissed me at the door, too fast and too light. "I'll call you tonight," she said, already halfway to the Uber. I nodded. Safe flight. Then I watched her drive away. 10 minutes later, I packed a bag of my own. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just drove. 12 hours straight from our place to Houston, stopping only for gas and bad coffee. My thoughts kept bouncing between numbness and rage. But underneath it all, there was something colder. Clarity. This wasn't a guess anymore. It wasn't a theory I could ignore. It was happening. She was in it. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. When I pulled into the hotel parking lot at 6:32 the next morning, I saw it instantly. Ryan's car. I didn't even know what he drove until that moment, but it was there, parked near the elevator bay. I recognized his vanity plate from a holiday photo Aaron had shown me once, back when things still made sense. I sat there for an hour waiting. Eventually, I walked into the lobby and asked the front desk if I could speak to someone about a billing error. I gave Aaron's name and said I needed to confirm the reservation had gone through. The clerk smiled politely and tapped on her screen. "Carter, right?" "Yes, she checked in yesterday afternoon. 2 guests under the reservation." My stomach dropped. I thanked her and walked out before I could do something stupid. There it was. Clear. Simple. Undeniable. She booked a romantic hotel, claimed it was a business trip, and checked in with another man. Not just a man, a coworker. Ryan. The guy with his hand on her back. The one who shared inside jokes. The one who smelled like that same cologne I'd caught on her skin weeks ago. This wasn't a maybe. This was betrayal. In full color. I didn't go inside. Didn't knock on their door or cause a scene in the hallway. That would have made it about drama. And I wasn't interested in being some story she got to tell her friends with a drink in her hand and a smirk on her face. I went back to my car, pulled out my phone, and took pictures: Ryan's car, the parking spot, the license plate. Time-stamped everything. Later, I stopped at a coffee shop and opened a new folder on my cloud drive. Evidence. Inside, I uploaded everything I had. The hotel charge. The lack of business travel in the internal system. The front desk confirmation. The photos. I even recorded a quick voice memo, explaining the timeline in case things somehow got messy later. That's when I realized this wasn't about catching her anymore. It was about preparing for what came next. She texted me that night like nothing had happened. "Long day. Meetings non-stop. I'm exhausted. I'll call you in the morning, Red Heart." I stared at the message for a long time. Meetings. Right. I didn't respond. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. I knew everything I needed to know. When I got home 2 days later, she was already back. The house was clean. Her suitcase was tucked neatly in the closet. She was in the kitchen making pasta, humming along to some playlist she probably shared with him. I played along for one more night. She sat across from me at dinner, telling me about presentations and client luncheons, like we still lived in a world where words meant things. I just nodded, said I was glad the trip went well, and cleared the table when we finished. She kissed me goodnight. I let her. Then I stayed up in the guest room, staring at the ceiling and listening to her soft breathing in the next room. You'd think I'd be heartbroken, but all I felt was this deep, detached calm. She didn't even know it was over yet. But I did. People always talk about betrayal like it's a fire, loud, hot, destructive. But for me, it felt more like ice. A slow, creeping freeze. That's what it was like after I got back from Houston. After I saw everything I needed to see. After the lies stopped feeling like mistakes and started feeling like strategies. There wasn't rage. Not really. There was silence. Cold and clean. And strangely productive. Because once you know the truth, you stop looking for it. You start planning. That next morning, Erin made me eggs. Sunny side up, just how I like them. She asked if I wanted to go hiking that weekend, and I said sure. I smiled. I even kissed her on the forehead when I grabbed my keys. And then I drove straight to the bank. The first step was separating finances. I opened a new checking account in my name only and began transferring my paycheck there. I let the old joint account sit, quiet and undisturbed, so she wouldn't notice the change. Over the next few weeks, I moved money slowly, quietly, small enough increments that nothing would set off alarms. I wasn't going to fight about who paid for what. I just wanted a clean exit. I also took her off my credit cards and changed the beneficiaries on everything that mattered. Life insurance, retirement, emergency contacts. It's amazing how much paperwork you can file when your heart is completely numb. Next, I started pulling documents. Tax returns, house deed, car titles, old contracts, anything that might come up in a courtroom. I scanned them all into a folder on my cloud drive, right alongside the photos from Houston and the hotel receipts. I created backup folders, password protected, distributed across 3 devices. I wasn't being paranoid. I was being ready. Because here's the thing about betrayal. Once you realize someone is capable of lying to your face, you have to assume they'll do worse when cornered. And I knew what was coming. I was done waiting for some big confession. It wasn't coming. She wasn't that type. Erin was the kind of person who rewrote history instead of admitting guilt. She'd never say, I cheated. She'd say, we were having problems. Or, I felt neglected. She'd frame it like an accident, a misunderstanding, a gray area. But there was nothing gray about what I saw. And I wasn't going to let her turn me into a villain in her little story. So I prepped. I reached out to a divorce attorney referred by a guy from my gym. A quiet, serious woman named Angela. No nonsense. No sympathy. Just questions, strategy, and a notepad that never stopped moving. She looked over the evidence and said, you'll be fine, but if you want this to be surgical, we'll need to time it right. Exactly what I wanted to hear. I wasn't looking for a fight. I was looking for an exit. At home, I kept the mask on. Erin would kiss me goodnight, curl up next to me in bed, and scroll through her phone while telling me she was wiped from work. I'd nod, brush her hair back from her face, and wonder what version of me she saw when she looked into my eyes. Because I knew what version of her I saw. Not a stranger, not even a monster, just a person who made a decision and kept making it. I watched her pack for off-site meetings that didn't exist. I watched her switch perfumes depending on the night of the week. I watched her take calls in the backyard, pacing with that soft, flirtatious tone I hadn't heard in years. I documented everything. Not because I needed more proof, honestly I already had more than enough, but because it gave me purpose. Focus. Project. You'd be surprised how organized a person can become when love dies. I bought a cheap burner phone and forwarded her texts from my carrier account. It was easier than expected. She used the same work phone for everything. There were long silences in her message history, conversations clearly deleted. But even ghosts leave fingerprints. One night, she slipped up, left her laptop open in the living room while she went to shower. The screen was dim, but not locked. I hesitated for maybe half a second. Then I tapped the trackpad. The browser was open to a Gmail account I didn't recognize. Definitely not her work one. The inbox was clean, suspiciously clean. But the trash folder wasn't. There were deleted messages from Ryan. All the classics. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. I hate sneaking around, but it's worth it. One even said, do you ever think about what it'd be like if it was just us? I read that one twice. Then I took **TS. And just like that, the final puzzle piece clicked into place. This wasn't just some stupid fling. This was intentional, planned, ongoing. I went upstairs and kissed her goodnight. She smelled like vanilla and secrets. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, counting how many days I had left. Angela and I picked a date 2 weeks out. Erin was due to travel again. Another corporate retreat to Chicago this time. I had no doubt who would be joining her. That's when we'd strike. Angela would file the divorce petition, serve the papers, and freeze our joint assets in one sweep. I changed the locks, remove her access to every shared document, and deliver the final blow to her job, an anonymous report to her company's ethics department, complete with time-stamped travel charges and hotel records. She'd built the affair in the shadows. I was going to tear it down in the light, not to punish her, to protect myself from the fallout, from the manipulation, from being gaslit into believing I was crazy for seeing what was right in front of me. The days leading up to it were strange. She'd started being sweeter, bringing home my favorite snacks, asking about my day, cuddling again. It almost felt like she could sense the shift, like she felt the temperature drop and wanted to throw a blanket over it. But it was too late. Every hug felt like a con. Every smile felt like a bribe. There was a part of me, some soft, stupid, wounded part, that wanted to believe maybe she was trying. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe she was regretting everything. But guilt doesn't erase lipstick smudges and hotel receipts. Regret doesn't explain deleted messages and late-night calls. Love doesn't lie to your face over and over again. The night before her trip, she stood in the doorway holding her suitcase and smiling. I'll only be gone 3 days, she said, brushing hair behind her ear. I'll miss you. I smiled back. Me too. She kissed me long and slow. And for a second, just a second, I felt nothing. No hurt, no love, no fire, no ice, just silence. The kind that comes before the storm. She left at 5:45 a.m. sharp. The wheels of her suitcase rolled softly over the tile. I heard her pause at the front door, probably checking her phone, maybe sending a leaving now red heart to Ryan, or whoever he was when she wasn't pretending he didn't exist. I stayed in bed, still as stone, until I heard the door close. Then I got up. The air felt different, lighter. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table in silence, watching the sunrise crawl across the tile. The steam from my mug curled up like a ghost, quiet and patient. I remember thinking, this is the last time she'll leave this house as my wife. Not that I said it out loud. That would have made it too real too soon. I took one last look around the kitchen. Her favorite coffee mug still in the rack. A plant she never watered drooping in the windowsill. A half-finished grocery list with my name scribbled next to almond milk. Then I walked into the garage, opened the storage cabinet, and pulled out the box I'd labeled in Sharpie 2 nights ago. Divorce, serve day. It was all there, documents, photos, receipts, passwords, a flash drive with every message and bank statement. Neatly organized, meticulous, cold. Angela texted me just after 8 a.m. Filed. Service scheduled for 10:30 a.m. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I got in the car and drove to the hardware store. Time to change the locks. By noon, the house was different. I'd swapped the deadbolts, reset the garage codes, and disabled her access to every shared account. Amazon, Netflix, bank logins, even the Nest thermostat. I wasn't being petty. I was being thorough. Our joint credit card was frozen. Shared Dropbox? Archived. Even our Spotify playlist, the one we made on our honeymoon, was gone. She'd built her little affair on convenience and comfort. So I stripped those away, piece by piece. The last thing I did was move her things. Not everything, just enough to make a point. I boxed up her clothes, makeup, shoes, laptop charger, toothbrush and favorite pillow. Packed it all with care. Set it gently on the porch. Didn't throw it, didn't dump it on the lawn. I wasn't trying to embarrass her. Just trying to end it. With clarity. With finality. And maybe, just maybe, with a little quiet dignity. At 1:17 p.m. I got the confirmation text from the process server. Documents served. No incident. She seemed surprised. I bet she did. At 3:42 p.m. her text came in. Nate, what the hell is going on? I didn't reply. 10 minutes later. You changed the locks? Are you serious? Then, we need to talk. Call me now. And finally, you can't just do this. What is wrong with you? I turned my phone off, because while she was pacing a fancy hotel room 2 states away, screaming into her iPhone, I was meeting with Angela again. There was one more piece of the plan, the nuclear one. See, what Erin hadn't considered in all of this was just how deeply her little affair had tangled itself with her professional life. She wasn't just lying to me, she was lying to her company. Those strategy trips weren't just morally corrupt. They were financially traceable. Every plane ticket, every hotel, every client dinner charged to a corporate card. And Ryan, he wasn't exactly innocent either. He'd been expensing personal outings as off-site sessions, booking romantic getaways under department budgets, double-dipping with per diems and covering for Erin when she clocked in late or filed consulting hours that never existed. They weren't just cheating, they were stealing. So I filed an anonymous report. I included everything: documents, receipts, calendar records, emails, **TS, even the name of the hotel where they were currently checked in. Angela helped me craft it. Tight, professional, bulletproof. We sent it to both HR departments, Erin's and Ryan's. Then we waited. The fallout came fast. By 9 o'clock the next morning, Erin was blowing up my phone again. Not with rage, but with panic. They suspended me. What did you do? I didn't answer. She followed with a voicemail, voice cracking, half whispered, half shouting. They think I committed fraud. Nate, please. I don't know what's going on. But I swear to God if you did this out of revenge. I stopped listening. Because it wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. For weeks, I'd been gaslit into silence. Made to doubt what I saw, what I knew. I was told to trust someone who had been systematically dismantling our marriage one lie at a time. And now, she was finally being held accountable. Ryan got it worse. Apparently, the internal audit team at their firm doesn't take kindly to unauthorized client travel. Especially not when the client doesn't exist and the employee is sleeping with a coworker on company time. He was removed from 2 major projects before lunch. I heard from a friend in their industry circles that he'd been temporarily reassigned. HR speak for, "We're building a case before we terminate you." Good. Let him sweat. Erin flew back that evening. I didn't go to the airport. I didn't answer the door. She stood outside for 20 minutes, pounding and yelling until the neighbors started watching from their porches. Then she saw the envelope taped to the door. Her name, legal letterhead, instructions for her next steps, and one line, handwritten at the bottom. Do not contact me directly. Everything goes through my attorney. She read it, then screamed, not out of anger, out of disbelief. Like somehow, I was the one who had blindsided her. Like she hadn't earned this, inch by inch, choice by choice. I watched from upstairs, silent behind the blinds. She picked up the box of her belongings, threw it into her car. Then she left, again. But this time, she wasn't coming back. Erin lost more than her marriage. Within days, she was suspended pending investigation. Ryan, pulled from key projects, reputation tanking fast. Word spread. His wife filed for divorce. Erin tried to reach out, calls, emails, even showing up once. I said nothing. She made her choices. Now she lived with them. What she called a mistake, the world now called misconduct. 6 months later, I moved to North Carolina. Bought a quiet lake house. Spent my days restoring old furniture, learning to be alone without being lonely. Then I met Megan, Smart, grounded, nothing like Aaron. We kept things honest, simple. Meanwhile, Aaron got a suspended sentence for financial fraud and a 3-year work ban. It wasn't revenge. It was closure. I finally had peace.